Johnny Cueto is one of the coolest and most talented pitchers of our generation. His peak with the Reds was insane, and he got robbed of the 2014 NL Cy Young thanks to the height of Clayton Kershaw. Even after a decade of shimmying and shining on the mound, he remains one of my favorite pitchers to watch, endlessly entertaining and so crafty despite not having the same weapons as some of the pitchers of his caliber.
Oh man, I can't have shit in this house!
However, if you had told me at this time last year that Johnny Cueto would be one of the best remaining free agents in the middle of this MLB offseason, I would have said, I don't agree. Also, that's incredibly specific. Also, can you please just take my order? I'm starving. With starting pitchers flying off the board, the remaining market for innings eaters is growing thinner by the day. Michael Wacha and Zach Greinke appear as attractive, safer options, but I'm hoping a team decides to give Cueto a shot after the 2022 season he just had. If you don't know already, Johnny Cueto bounced back in a huge way for the White Sox last year. We all know about the terrific first half of his career, but we were almost robbed completely of the entire second half due to a mix of injuries and poor performance. Despite all of that, at age 36 on a minor league deal, Johnny Cueto turned it all around and had one of the best seasons of his long career. How did he do it? Well, first, let's take it back to 2016, the first year of Johnny Cueto's big signing with the San Francisco Giants. After Cueto helped the Royals win the World Series in 2015, he became an all-star in the first season of his 6-year contract with the Giants. He was brilliant, leading the league in complete games, tossing over 200 innings with a 2.79 ERA, and striking out the second most batters in a single season in his entire career. For a smidge under $16 million in that first year, the Giants got a top 6 NL Cy Young finisher and a formidable number 2 ace behind the already dominant weapon of Madison Bumgarner. Though they lost in the NLDS to the eventual champion Chicago Cubs, the future of that contract and that team still looked bright, with Cueto only being 30 years old. But this would be the best that would come out of Cueto's long, expensive deal in the Bay Area. He only pitched more than 115 innings once in the remaining 5 years of that contract and didn't pitch well for most of it. When he did pitch well, an injury usually followed that up. It was a shame for a guy still in his early 30s that seemingly couldn't shake the injury bug. He did, however, bounce back a bit in 2021, pitching over 100 innings for the first time since 2017, with an ERA hovering around 4. It was a sign of life, but far from the dominance we had seen in the mid-2010s, and it had seemed that maybe Johnny Cueto's best years were finally behind him. Still, despite this positive turn, the offseason came and went, and no team was willing to take a shot on Johnny Cueto. At age 36, his legendary and somewhat underrated career as an ace seemed to be coming to an end as the 2022 season got rolling without him on a roster. That is, until the early season implosion of the White Sox. Now, implosion is a strong word. They were a 500 team. Dylan Cease and Michael Kopech were doing their part in the rotation, but Lucas Giolito was battling some early season minor injuries. The South Side wasn't getting Lance Lynn back until June, the Vince Velasquez experiment was going poorly, and Dallas Keuchel was looking like me on the mound.
But it wouldn't count.
Oh no!
Yes!
So they needed innings, and were willing to try anything to keep themselves atop the American League Central. Enter Johnny Cueto. At first, Johnny Cueto seemed like a temporary fix at best, a Hail Mary of sorts. Chicago had done this kind of thing before, bringing in guys in the later stage of their career to try and eat up some innings. See Irvin Santana in 2019 or Gio Gonzalez in 2020. But starting in mid-May, he tossed 12 shutout innings in 2 starts against the Royals and the Yankees, helping the White Sox win both of those games. His subsequent 4 starts were just fine, but he made his presence known in his first win on June 18th, where he blanked the Houston Astros for 7 innings. By then, he was 7 starts deep with an ERA under 3, and it was clear he wasn't going anywhere. In 2022, the 36-year-old pitched an unbelievable 158 healthy innings across 25 starts after needing 3 injured list stints in 2021. He pitched 8 innings or more on 4 separate occasions, including 3 times in one of his best months in August. He once again dominated Houston, allowing 1 run over 8 innings, and then came 1 out shy of a complete game shutout against the rival Cleveland Guardians, lowering his ERA to a season-best 2.58 at that point. Though he slowed down a bit at the end of the season and the White Sox finished the year with a disappointing .500 record, Johnny Cueto was arguably the best story to come out of the 2022 White Sox. After his career looked like it was over and done with, he finished with a top 15 ERA in the American League and placed top 10 in walk percentage, soft contact, and ground ball rate, and kept the ball in the ballpark with top 5 efficiency. This came all on the back of a measly $4 million deal signed a month into the 2022 season. Talk about bang for your buck. At age 36, Johnny Cueto became one of just 23 pitchers that age or older to finish a season with an ERA under 3.5 and at least 150 innings pitched since the year 2000. He's in the same company as guys like R.A. Dickey, John Smoltz, Bartolo Colon, Justin Verlander, and others, all of whom achieved a great career renaissance in the second half of their playing days. So perhaps perhaps more greatness is in store for Johnny Cueto. In 17 of Cueto's 25 starts last season, he walked 1 or less batters. From the beginning of August to the end of the season, he walked just 11 batters in over 70 innings, good for a 1.4 rate, which was 5th in the American League during this span. Okay, but what gives? How did Johnny Cueto manage to accomplish all of this after years of struggles and injuries? Why was everything different for the White Sox? First and foremost, Johnny Cueto stayed healthy, and this is sort of a variable you can't control, but I'm glad he was able to stay healthy and on the field to pitch 25 starts. Cueto kept hitters off balance, and this is something that has fueled his success for years. He used 5 different pitches at least 16.5% of the time, with his most used pitch, his sinker, averaging out at 23.7%. These pitches range from 82 to 91 miles per hour, they move in all different directions, and with Cueto's added quirks to his delivery, which he's become famous for, he allows himself tons of variability with how he approaches an outing and a batter. If we take a look at his best starts of the season, the outings where he blanked the Astros, Yankees, Guardians, and Royals, in each of these starts, he threw all 5 of his pitches at least 12% of the time. And besides his Yankee start where he threw his sinker 36 times, he never threw any of his 5 primary pitches over 30% of the time. In his best starts, even against potent lineups, Cueto's diversification was his best weapon. Johnny Cueto has never been a strikeout or whiff specialist even during his best years, and this was still very much the case during the 2022 season, a year where his single game high for strikeouts was just 7, and where he struck out 3 batters or less in 10 of his 25 starts. Out of all American League pitchers with at least 150 innings pitched, hitters made more contact against Johnny Cueto than anyone else. His 84.5 contact percentage and 89.9% zone contact rate were highest in his league. This means swings and misses were few and far between against Johnny Cueto. This adds up considering Cueto used his cutter more than ever. After using it 7% of the time in 2017 before ditching it entirely until last season, his cutter usage spiked to 19.7%, his 3rd most used pitch this year behind his changeup and sinker. He wasn't necessarily benefiting from luck either. Johnny Cueto dealt with a .295 batting average on balls in play, which was tied for 9th highest in the American League with Martin Perez. He was able to handle this higher rate thanks to some stellar defense behind him. He had a top 10 rate in ground ball percentage, but the White Sox infield defense combined for... Wait, what? That can't be right. It is right? Okay, I guess. The White Sox infield defense compiled an outs above average value of 0 for the 2022 season. 15th of 30 MLB teams, completely average, kind of like the team as a whole in 2022. The same team that went 81 and 81. The same team whose qualified pitchers had an average ERA plus of 101. 1 tick above league average. Seriously, this hole goes deeper and deeper, so we'll just stop now. So how did Cueto manage his high contact rate and high BABIP so well with a mostly average team of fielders behind him? Well, it was mainly because of the type of contact he was inducing. While Cueto wasn't generating a ton of whiffs, he was still consistently able to get hitters to swing and make contact on bad pitches. His 77.2% out-of-zone contact rate was 2nd highest in the American League, only to Marco Gonzalez. This was likely a key contributor to his high soft contact percentage, which was vital in inducing a high amount of field outs. His average exit velocity balanced out at 87.7 miles per hour, which ranked in the 69th percentile, the same as Aaron Nola and Josh Hader. This was a respectable area considering the adversity Cueto had faced in recent years, and better yet, this was his best rank in a qualified year since 2016, his last great season where he was an all-star for the Giants. That year, he yielded an 87.8 average exit velocity and once again ranked in the 69th percentile. Funny how that works. Johnny Cueto was also great at getting ahead in counts and setting the tone. His 66.7% first strike percentage was 5th in the American League, trailing aces like Kevin Gausman and Nestor Cortez. The OPS disparity between hitters after an 0-1 count and hitters after a 1-0 count against Cueto is pretty staggering, by over 120 points to be exact. Outside of how Cueto garnered his success last year, he also had some pretty fun, perplexing splits that I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around. One of them was the fact that Cueto was much more effective pitching in games against winning teams than losing teams, to the tune of over a 1.5 difference in ERA. One of the especially cool splits of Johnny Cueto's 2022 season was that he actually improved as he continued to pitch deeper into an outing. In the first 25 pitches of a start, hitters yielded an 841 OPS against Cueto, whereas from his 75th to 100th pitch of a start, that OPS plummets nearly 300 ticks all the way down to 562. Most of the reasons why Johnny Cueto was great in 2022 are repeatable despite his growing age. Johnny Cueto is an efficient and entertaining starter to watch because even past the prime of his best weapons, he's still able to thrive thanks to his craftiness. I'm very curious curious which team decides to pay up and take a flyer on him, most likely on a 1-year deal. Johnny Cueto likely will be riding these one-and-done deals until he retires, but I'm still hoping that day is far away. I've also seen some reports that the Reds are interested in a reunion, and while that would certainly make him a lock to be traded, I do think Reds fans deserve some semblance of happiness, so I am rooting for this option. Regardless of where he ends up, I'm hoping Johnny Cueto can keep the magic alive for another season and shock the baseball world again. But even if that doesn't come to be the case, his 2022 season is still a marvel that I will appreciate for a long time. Alright MLB teams, the holidays are over. Somebody pay this man to be the coolest starter in your rotation for another season. Please and thank you. And you know what? I might just go and place some bets on Johnny Cueto with the DraftKings Sportsbook, today's official sponsor for this video. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with the link in my description and start placing bets today. I'm personally really excited for the MLB futures bets to be placed so I can make my lock for this year's Cy Young, which if you watch my last video is going to be Christian Javier in the American League. You can also place same game parlays and combine multiple bets like which team will win, player props, point totals, and more. The more legs you add, the bigger the boost, and the bigger your shot to win big. So once again, download their app now, use code JOLLY, place a $5 bet on any NFL team to win their game, and get $150 in free bets if your bet cashes. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code JOLLY. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details, and thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video. I'll see you guys next time.